Hello, folks, and welcome to the continuation of Carmilla. So I'm just trying to find the most comfortable way to sit in the chair with my. Well, I guess it's most closely related to stays as opposed to an actual corset, but I am sort of still getting the feel of them. You can see I'm not too fussed about the straps at the moment. So I'm more focused on getting this part, the restrictive part, to be the most comfortable. So if you see me slouching, sort of listing sideways either way, that is why. But it came in, I think, at the beginning of September. So it's from I Do Declare, which is an American sort of indie fashion. Let me go see what the cat knocked over. I will deal with that later. That is more of a mess than I feel like. I've already set up, I've already hit record, I've started. She knocked over a plant, which I can clean that up later. It's not going anywhere and it's not going to stain anything, so it can. Orientals, they have personality. Anyway, yes, so if you get a chance and you're interested, I would recommend checking out. I don't know why I keep doing that. I would definitely recommend checking out I Do Declare. They have really great designs, and the customer service is that I've had to use. Basically, they had COVID related delays with things, so I did have to contact them a few times just to make sure stuff was still happening, and I didn't really have to. It was more for my own peace of mind, but they were great every time. So if you do get a chance, I Do Declare is a really cool independent company, independent clothing design company. But we are here for the next part of Carmilla. Came with coaster. Oh well. We are on chapter 3. So let's keep going with it. And before I begin reading, just the usual, I do apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of which I'm sure there will be many. So, pardon me. Also, being an antique story, they do tend to have things in them about race, religion, pardon me, gender and sex, which are rightly distasteful to modern ears, but I don't really believe in censoring old works, because if you're old enough to be reading them, you're probably mature enough to handle the associated discussions and themes as they come up. And also the things that give rise to plots in a lot of horror literature, be it new or old, are often unpleasant things, murder, suicide, what have you. So again, please be aware of those things whenever you're consuming content on my channel. And if those sorts of things sound like, not quite your cup of tea, you're certainly not obligated to hang out with me. You are more than welcome to wander off into the vast ether of the internet and find something more suitable to your own personal choices and preferences. Otherwise, if you're still here we go with chapter 3 of Carmilla. I keep showing off the cover because it's such a beautiful edition of the book. I was hoping this isn't a sticker, unfortunately. It's part of the cover. I did want to peel it off, but it's part of the cover. So, with all of that aside, here we go. Chapter 3. We compare notes. We followed the cortege with our eyes until it was swiftly lost to sight in the misty wood, and the very sound of the hoofs and the wheels died away in the silent night air. Nothing remained to assure us that the adventure had not been an illusion of a moment. Bloody cat hair. but the young lady, who just at that moment opened her eyes. Yeah, I guess it couldn't have been a hallucination if she's still there, huh? I could not see, for her face was turned from me, but she raised her head, evidently looking about her. I mean, she would probably be very confused at this point, so. And I heard a very sweet voice ask complainingly, "Where is Mamma?" Our good Madame Perrodon answered tenderly and added some comfortable assurances. I then heard her ask, "Where am I? What is this place?" And after that she said, "I don't see the carriage, and Ooh, here's our first mispronunciation. And Matska, where is she?" Yeah, again, if you were this young woman, you'd be quite confused by this turn of events in your life, I think. No fighting! Madame answered all her questions insofar as she understood them, and Belle, no, don't come here to be sweet after you've made a big mess. Go, yeah. And gradually the young lady remembered how the misadventure came about, and was glad to hear that no one in or in attendance on the carriage was hurt. And on learning that her mamma had left her there till her return in about 3 months, she wept. I mean, appropriate response. That seems normal. I'm not being sarcastic. Like, I legit think that crying is an appropriate response in this situation, especially since he probably has a concussion. I was going to add my consolations to those of Madame Perrodon when Mademoiselle de la Fontaine placed her hand upon my arm, saying, "Don't approach. One at a time is as much as she can at present converse with. A very little excitement would possibly overpower her now." That's again very reasonable. I mean, that's like essentially the reason why the hospitals sometimes limit the number of guests someone can have. As soon as she is comfortably in bed, I thought, I will run up to her room and see her. My father, in the meantime, had sent a servant on horseback for the physician, who lived about 2 leagues away, and a bedroom was being prepared for the young lady's reception. The stranger now rose, and, leaning on Madame's arm, walked slowly over the drawbridge and into the castle gate. In the hall, servants waited to receive her, and she was conducted forthwith to her room. The room we usually sat in, as our drawing-room, is long, having 4 windows that looked over the moat and drawbridge upon the forest scene I have just described. It is furnished in old carved oak, with large carved cabinets, and the chairs are cushioned with crimson Utrecht. What did I say about fighting? Utrecht velvet. The walls are covered with tapestry and surrounded with great gold frames, the figures being as large as life in ancient and very curious costume, and the subjects represented are hunting, hawking, and generally festive. It is not too stately to be extremely comfortable, and here we had our tea, for with his usual patriotic leanings, he insisted that the national beverage should make its appearance regularly at our coffee table. Pardon me. I'm sort of half listening to the cats in the background, so that they're not, like, actually fighting. He insisted that the national beverage should make its appearance regularly with our coffee and chocolate. Sure, dude. Whatever. We sat here this night, and with candles lighted, were talking over the adventure of the evening. Madame Perrodon and Mademoiselle de la Fontaine were both of our party. The young stranger hardly laid down in her bed when she sank into a deep sleep, and those ladies had left her in the care of a servant. "How do you like our guest?" I asked as soon as Madame entered. "Tell me all about her." "I like her extremely," answered Madame. "She is, I almost think, the prettiest creature I ever saw, about your age, and so gentle and nice. She is absolutely beautiful," threw in Mademoiselle, who peeped for a moment into the stranger's room. And such a sweet voice, added Madame Perrodon. Did you remark a woman in the carriage after it was set up again, who did not get out? Inquired Mademoiselle, but only looked from the window. No, we had not seen her. Yeah, the carriage just tipped over, and you just that admittedly that is a little weird. Ooh, okay, so this description of this woman is not flattering. Then she described a hideous woman who was gazing all the time from the carriage window, nodding and grinning derisively towards the ladies, with gleaming eyes and large white eyeballs, and her teeth set as if in fury. I mean, what other color? Unless she means the whole of the eye was white, it would be really weird if your eyeballs weren't white. Like, isn't them like being yellow or something a sign of jaundice? Like they should be white, right? It's a weird thing to get upset about. Did you remark what an ill-looking pack of men the servants were? Asked Madame. Yes, said my father, who had just come in. Ugly, hang-dog-looking fellows as ever I beheld in my life. I hope they mayn't rob the poor lady in the forest. They are clever rogues, however. They've got everything to rights in a minute. I mean, it's sort of interesting, the descriptions that the teenage girl gave of the scene, and then these actual adults who are maybe a little more worldly, to be a bit more suspicious and judgmental, and you have her very excited but nonetheless kind of rosy descriptions, and then you have this from the adults, which sort of immediately marks the whole thing as sort of incredibly suspicious. I dare say they are worn out with too long travelling, said Madame. Besides looking wicked, their faces were so strangely lean and dark and sullen. I am very curious, I own, but I dare say the young lady will tell you all about it tomorrow, if she is sufficiently recovered. I don't think she will, said my father, with a mysterious smile and a little nod of his head, as if he knew more about it than he cared to tell us. This made us all the more inquisitive as to what had passed between him and the lady in the black velvet, in the brief but earnest interview that had immediately preceded her departure. You better just be playing chase. We were scarcely alone when I entreated him to tell me. He did not need much pressing. There is no particular reason why I should not tell you. A+ parenting there, dude. She expressed a reluctance to trouble us with the care of her daughter, saying she was in a delicate health and nervous, but not subject to any kind of seizure. She volunteered that, nor to any illusion, being, in fact, perfectly sane. How very odd to say all that, I interpolated. It was so unnecessary. Yeah, take care of my daughter. She's a bit sick, but don't worry, she's not crazy. That is weird. Admittedly, that is very odd. At all events, it was said, he laughed. And as you wish to know all that passed, which was, indeed, very little, I tell you. She then said, I am making a long journey of vital importance. She emphasized the word, rapid and secret. I shall return for my child in 3 months. In the meantime, she will be silent as to who we are, whence we come, and whither we are traveling. That was all she said. She spoke very pure French. Belle. When she said the word secret, she paused for a few seconds, looking sternly, her eyes fixed on mine. I fancy she makes a great point of that. You saw how quickly she was gone. I hope I had not done a very foolish thing in taking charge of the young lady. Belle. For my part, I was delighted. I was longing to see and talk to her, and only waiting till the doctor should give me leave. You, who live in towns, can have no idea how great an event the introduction of a new friend is in such a solitude as surrounded us. I mean, that's... Sorry, cat hair or something on my nose. It is something you hear about people that live, from people that live in quite isolated situations, that even the smallest, sort of most mundane new things tend to be quite exciting. The doctor did not arrive till nearly 1 o'clock, but I could no more have gone to my bed and slept than I could have overtaken on foot the carriage in which the princess in black velvet had driven away. When the physician came down to the drawing room, it was to report very favorably upon his patient. She was now sitting up, her pulse quite regular, apparently perfectly well. She had sustained no injury, and the little shock to her nerves had passed away quite harmlessly. There could be no harm, certainly, in my seeing her, if we both wished it, and with this permission I sent forthwith to know whether she would allow me to visit her for a few minutes in her room. The servant returned immediately to say that she desired nothing more. You may be sure I was not long in availing myself of this permission. Our visitor lay in one of the handsomest rooms in the Schloss. It was, perhaps, a little stately. There was a sombre piece of tapestry opposite the foot of the bed, representing Cleopatra with the asps to her bosom, and other solemn classical scenes were displayed, a little faded, upon the other walls. The reference to Cleopatra with the asps becomes quite interesting when you know the rest of the story. But there was gold carving and rich and varied color enough in the other decorations of the room to more than redeem the gloom of the old tapestry. There were candles at the bedside. She was sitting up, her slender, pretty frame enveloped in the soft silk dressing gown, embroidered with flowers and lined with thick quilted silk, which her mother had thrown over her feet as she lay upon the ground. Yeah, did they bring the girls' luggage? Like, now that this is a thing, I have, like, logistic questions about how all this was handled. What was it that, as I reached the bedside and had just begun my little greeting, struck me dumb in a moment and made me recoil a step or two before her? I will tell you. I saw the very face which had visited me in my childhood at night, which remained so fixed in my memory, and on which I had for so many years so often ruminated with horror, when no one suspected of what I was thinking. It was pretty, even beautiful, and when I first beheld it, wore the same melancholy expression. But this almost instantly lighted into a strange, fixed smile of recognition. There was a silence of fully a minute, and then at length she spoke. I could not. "How wonderful!" she exclaimed. "12 years ago I saw your face in a dream, and it has haunted me ever since." Nice recovery there, Carmilla. "Wonderful indeed," I repeated, overcoming with an effort the horror that had for a time suspended my utterances. 12 years ago, in vision or reality, I certainly saw you. I could not forget your face. It has remained before my eyes ever since." Her smile had softened. Whatever I had fancied strange in it was gone, and it and her dimpling cheeks were now delightfully pretty and intelligent. I felt reassured, and continued more in the vein which hospitality indicated, to bid her welcome and to tell her how much pleasure her accidental arrival had given us all, and especially what a happiness it was to me. I took her hand as I spoke. I was a little shy, as lonely people are, but the situation made me eloquent and even bold. She pressed my hand, she laid hers upon it, and her eyes glowed as, looking hastily into mine, she smiled again and blushed. She answered my welcome very prettily. I sat down beside her, still wondering, and she said, "I must tell you my vision about you. It is so very strange that you and I should have had of the other so vivid a dream that each of us should have seen, I you and you me, looking as we do now, when of course we were both mere children." I was a child, about 6 years old, and I awoke from a confused and troubled dream, and found myself in a room unlike my nursery, wainscoted clumsily in some dark wood, and with cupboards and bedsteads and chairs and benches placed about it. The beds were, I thought, all empty, and the room itself without anyone but myself in it, and I, after looking about me for some time, and admiring especially an iron candlestick with 2 branches, which I should certainly know again, crept under one of the beds to reach the window. But as I got from under the bed, I heard someone crying. And looking up, while I was still upon my knees, I saw you, most assuredly you, as I see you now, a beautiful young lady with golden hair and large blue eyes, and lips, your lips, as you are here. Your looks won me. I climbed on the bed and put my arms about you, and I think we both fell asleep. I was aroused by a scream. You were sitting up screaming. I was frightened and slipped down upon the ground, and, it seemed to me, lost consciousness for a moment, and when I came to myself, I was again in my nursery at home. Your face I have never forgotten since. I could not be misled by mere resemblance. You are the lady whom I saw then. It was now my turn to relate my corresponding vision, which I did, to the undisguised wonder of my new acquaintance. I don't know which should be more afraid of the other, she said again, smiling. If you were less pretty, I think I should have been very much afraid of you. Wow. I think I should be very much afraid of you. But being as you are, and you and I both so young, I feel only that I have made your acquaintance 12 years ago, and have already a right to your intimacy. At all events, it does seem as if we were destined from our earliest childhood to be friends. I wonder whether you feel as strangely drawn towards me as I do to you. I have never had a friend. Shall I find one now? She sighed, and her fine dark eyes gazed passionately at me. Now the truth is, I felt rather unaccountably towards the beautiful stranger. I did feel, as she said, drawn towards her, but there was also something of repulsion. In this ambiguous feeling, however, the sense of attraction immensely prevailed. Yeah, that's fine. We all ignore red flags. We all ignore red flags sometimes. It's probably fine, right? No way that could go wrong. She interested and won me. She was so beautiful and so indescribably engaging. I perceive now something of languor and I perceived now something of languor and exhaustion stealing over her, and hastened to bid her good night. The doctor thinks, I added, that you ought to have a maid to sit up with you tonight. One of ours is waiting, and you will find her a very useful and quiet creature. How kind of you. But I could not sleep. I never could with an attendant in the room. I mean, me neither. That sounds weird and creepy. I shan't require any assistance, and shall, I confess my weakness. I am haunted with a terror of robbers. Our house was robbed once, and 2 servants murdered, so I always lock my door. It has become a habit, and you look so kind, I know you will forgive me. I see there is a key in the lock. She held me close in her pretty arms for a moment and whispered in my ear, "Good night, darling. It is very hard to part with you, but good night. Tomorrow, but not early, I shall see you again." I like that she specified not early, a woman after my own heart. She sank back on the pillow with a sigh, and her fine eyes followed me with a fond and melancholy gaze, and she murmured again, "Good night, dear friend." Young people like, and even more love, on impulse. Yeah, that's probably true. I was flattered by the evident, though as yet undeserved, fondness she showed me. I liked the confidence with which she at once received me. She was determined that we should be very near friends. Next day came, and we met again. I was delighted with my companion, that is to say, in many respects. Her looks lost nothing in daylight. She was certainly the most beautiful creature I had ever seen, and the unpleasant remembrance of the face presented in my early dream had lost the effect of the first unexpected recognition. She confessed that she had experienced a similar shock on seeing me, and precisely the same faint antipathy that had mingled with my admiration of her. We now laughed together over our momentary horrors. And that is the end of chapter 3 of Carmilla. So that's where we will be leaving it today. So thank you for hanging out with me. Ugh, this is going to take some getting used to. I'm never sure, like, they're obviously loose, but like how tight is too tight? I'm still trying to work all of that out. So thank you for spending some time with me. We'll get back to it soon, hopefully. Please enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time you are watching this video. And I hope we can hang out again on the channel soon. And now I have to go clean up the plant that my cat knocked over. So that'll be fun for me. I hope you have more pleasant things waiting for you once you leave the video. So goodbye, folks, and I hope to see you again here soon.